And welcome back to this Thursday edition of Focal Point on AFR Talk. The number to call if you'd like to join our conversation is 888-589-8840. 888-589-8840 is the number to call. Happy to have you weigh in on any of the topics that we've addressed today. We talked about Romans 12. The difference between revenge and justice is when we do it, it's revenge. When God does it, it is justice. We'll talk a little bit more about that tomorrow because I think there's a lot of people put an unfortunate chapter break between Romans chapter 12 and Romans chapter 13. Glad to talk about that, about getting even versus trusting God to secure justice for you. We talked about the handshake business, the American Medical Association, and how the Bible takes a different view of handshakes. Even, ladies and gentlemen, even when it comes to issues of human health, when the Bible speaks, it's something that we can trust. And then we talked about Bryan College as a Christian college standing firm. That's our winnable war moment for the day. Bryan College standing firm, standing tall, standing strong on the revealed Word of God when it comes to the issue of origins. Kudos to them. That is our winnable war moment for the day, significant enough that even the New York Times wrote a story on it. And then our conversation with Bishop Harry Jackson about the black church as he speaks to us from Washington, D.C. So the number to call is 888-589-8840. Let's play one soundbite. This is clip number one. Carol Costello, she's a anchorette at CNN. She interviewed me, if you remember, back in the day. I was on the issue of homosexuality, and I referred to the gay Gestapo. What happened? I was on her program. She cut me off, interrupted me, basically terminated the interview. And so I talked about it on my program that this is what the gay Gestapo does. They shut down debate. They shut down dialogue. They shut down discussion. They're not interested in having a debate about the issues because I was bringing up all of the health risks associated with homosexual behavior according to the CDC. And I said, look, this is what the gay Gestapo does. They shut people down. And Carol Costello came back, played an excerpt from my program talking about her and the gay Gestapo. And she said, look, if shutting a guy like this down, if that's what it means to be part of the gay Gestapo, then count me in as a card-carrying member of the gay Gestapo. So that's Carol Costello. Now, she's got a couple of pseudo-evangelicals on to talk about the issue of global warming. Didn't have anybody on, no Christians like Cal Beisner or others to come on who are evangelicals and students of the Scripture to talk about a countervailing point of view. And this was on their news broadcast. This is on their hard news part of their programming. This wasn't some kind of opinion or talk show type format show. This was their hard news segment. And here's what Carol Costello had to say about climate change and global warming.
Religious leaders are more than concerned about statements like that. They're now battling climate change denials on moral grounds. The Reverend Mitch Hescox is president of the Evangelical Environmental Network. His group is asking Florida's governor to come up with a climate change plan for the state. Also with me, Father Edward Beck, a CNN religion commentator who thinks denying climate change is a sin. Welcome to you both.
Thank you much.
Reverend Hescox, can't we just say it like it is? Climate change deniers aren't listening to scientists, or they're not reading the Bible. They're denying global warming for purely political reasons, right?
Well, they may be, but I think that's one of the problems in America today.
All right, so Carol Costello says we are denying science and we are not reading the Bible. That is Carol Costello's assessment of those of us who believe the Bible and who make a habit of reading about the latest in climate science. And we know for a fact that there's been no global warming in the last 18 years, 17 years and 9 months. We know that the Antarctic sea ice cover is not melting. It's expanding by the day. It's larger than it's ever been since they started measuring it back in the late 1970s. And we know from what the scriptures indicate that creation is robust. It's pretty sturdy. A lot of equilibrium there. It's got an enormous capacity to absorb what human beings even attempt to do to it. There's just no possible way. I mean, one of the real emphases in the scriptures is that God is so big, the universe is so vast, and the world is so huge, it's so big, that man is puny. Man doesn't have the capacity to do the kind of globally destructive things that the global warming deniers are accusing us of. And it's interesting to me, Carol Costello, bringing the Bible into this and bringing morality into this, making this a moral issue. These are the people that always tell us you cannot legislate morality, but all of a sudden, if it suits their agenda, then all they want to talk about is morality. All they want to talk about is religion. All they want to talk about is God. All they want to talk about is the Bible, as long as they believe that those things can be twisted to serve their political agenda. So the people that claim you can't legislate morality, if they just turn right around and make a very moral case for whatever their progressive agenda happens to be. All right, let's go to the phones. 888-589-8840 is the number. Let's go to Catherine in Wallace, North Carolina. Catherine, welcome. What's on your mind?
Well, talk about hard news, Brian. I made the mistake yesterday of deciding to watch the CBS 6 o'clock broadcast.
Yes, ma'am.
And the anchor man, instead of referring to Islamic extremists, the anchor, I guess it's okay to say anchor man, the anchor, I'll just say the anchor, referred to those who had young Iranians arrested for making some sort of hip-hop style video. He referred to them as religious conservatives.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't this clear hostility towards Christians? It seems as if no one bats an eye. And how long before it jumps from verbal hostility to hollow point bullets? What say you, Brian?
Well, that's interesting, Catherine. So you're saying, I just want to tack that down. This is on CBS, one of the networks. So rather than referring to these Iranians as Muslims or as followers of Islam or as Muslim radicals or Muslim fanatics or whatever, he referred to them with the general term religious conservatives.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. So what he's doing, that's very deliberate, Catherine, on his part, to form a connection in the minds of a gullible American people that devout Muslims are just like devout Christians, only different. That's the parallel they want to make. So that if you think that devout Muslims are a threat, then they want you to think that devout Christians are exactly the same kind of threat that devout Muslims are. So again, it has to do with language and planting thoughts and seeds in your mind. And so Catherine, and you think about it, people watching that program that aren't dialed in like you are, that aren't aware, that haven't been taught, that don't have some awareness of the differences between Christianity and Islam, you can see how people could be taken in by that kind of loose terminology.
Yes, I do.
All right. Well, listen, I appreciate it, Catherine. Thank you for the call. And speaking of that, here is a story. I didn't mean to get to this till later, but Catherine reminded me of it. Here's a story from the New York Post. Feast your eyes on this if you think there's no difference between Islam and Christianity. Here is the story from the New York Post, this morning's New York Post. An elderly Pakistani immigrant beat his wife to death. This is in New York now, New York City. An elderly Pakistani immigrant beat his wife to death with a stick after the doomed woman made the mistake of cooking him lentils for dinner instead of the hearty meal of goat meat that he craved, according to court papers. Noor Hussain, 75, was so outraged over the prospect of eating the vegetarian fare that he pummeled his wife, Nazar Hussain, inside their Brooklyn apartment until she was a, quote, bloody mess, end quote, prosecutors said in opening statements. Now, here's what his defense attorney said. Now, she's trying to get a Sharia law ruling here. She wants her client, this guy that beat his wife to death, she wants him to get off on the basis of Sharia law. Listen to this. Defense attorney Julie Clark admitted Hussain beat his wife, but she said that in his home country, beating your wife is customary. That's her defense. In his home country of Pakistan, we shouldn't be alarmed at this. We shouldn't be troubled at this. We shouldn't penalize this guy. We shouldn't make what he did a criminal offense, because in his home country, an Islamic country, a country which is Muslim to the core, a country which is governed by Sharia law, in that country, beating your wife is customary. Quote, he comes from a culture where he thinks this is appropriate conduct, where he can hit his wife. He culturally believed he had the right to hit his wife and discipline his wife. And of course, that's exactly right. That's what the Quran teaches. Muhammad himself said you can beat your wife into submission. Let's go to Kurt, Grants Pass, Oregon. Kurt, welcome to Focal Point with Brian Fisher. Kurt, what's on your mind?
Thank you, Brian, for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
You were talking about Romans and justice, and we want revenge.
Uh-huh.
Have any of your listeners sat on jury duty?
Probably. I'm sure they have.
Well, I haven't. It's been a while since I've sat on jury duty to seek justice. What is the truth? And right now, we got a court case going. A man, because he put a little dime-sized dent in this lady's license plate, it's gone from a civil suit. He was willing to buy her a new set of license to a criminal thing. We had different judges come down, one from Douglas County to be the judge, and about a month ago he was supposed to be sentenced, but he's representing himself. But anyway, in August he's to have a retrial.
Now, Kurt, I got about 30 seconds.
Okay,
I want to be sure we get your point.
We want fair. We have a judicial system in the United States, the jury. The last thing is, Janet Folger wrote a book, Criminalization of Christianity, about the homosexuals. Bob Knight in 1997 said the whole agenda of homosexuality was to make us criminals, and they're doing it.
Yep, that's exactly right, Kurt. That is a true fact. They are doing it. They are seeking to criminalize us. I mean, seriously, ladies and gentlemen, they want to lock us up. They want to lock people like me up. They want to lock other people that sound a pro-family message, a pro-life, a pro-marriage. They literally want to lock us up. They want to criminalize what we say, criminalize what we do, and put us behind bars. Focal Point, AFR Talk. We'll be right back after the news. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere.